Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today we're going to be making a different kind of flower. It's a little bit more of a mixed media piece. They're going to sort of look like folk art roses, sort of. We're going to choose the color we want for our flowers. I'm using this bright pink by Quilt Creations, and we're also going to be making some leaves in a similar style. So I have Holiday Green here from Craft Harbor. We're going to be using some scrapbook paper. These are both a little bit textured. I'm going to be using the pink one to go with the pink flowers and the green to go with the green leaves. You're going to need a needle tool here. You can get away with a slotted tool for parts of it, but you'll need a needle tool for some. I have my Quilling tweezers and I have my Elmer's glue all in a needle nose container. And I'm also pulling out my paper crimper again. We're going to be using that for the leaves. And I would grab a pencil. And you're also going to need some scissors. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is make the center of our flower, which is going to be made with a multi-strip swirl. And this is not a new technique. If you're a follower of my channel, you have seen this before, but a quick refresh on how to do that. I am using 4 strips of about the same size, and they're all the same color paper, that bright pink. I'm adding a thin line of glue just to the very tippy top, just to the ends between every piece. And then I'm going to make sure they're stacked and pinch out that glue. Try to get them as straight as possible. And then before that glue really has a chance to set, I'm going to, a little undone there. Okay. You're going to need a needle tool for this. It makes a much nicer swirl because it doesn't have a crimp in the middle. And you are using your thumbs and that finger holding the paper to turn those strips. It does take a little bit of effort to get it started, but once you get it started, you can turn it on itself pretty easily. Once you take it off your tool, it should look sort of like this. And it's just a matter of pulling the individual strips while holding the sides, and then you can maneuver the swirl however you want. I like to use my fingers to pull each strip and try to get them as even as I can. And we're looking for sort of a smaller swirl for this project. So something about that big. It's not, maybe about 3/4 of an inch. And using my scissors and holding the sides again so it doesn't come undone, I am just shingle cutting down, making each layer a tiny bit longer than the last. And then to keep that, we're going to add a little bit of glue between each layer again. And using your fingers, straighten that all out while sort of curling it as well. You want this to kind of look like a letter C, or even a lowercase e, I guess, when you're all done. It should look something like that. I will leave a link in the description box for this video for my original How to Make Swirls video, because it does go into a bit more detail. So look for that if you have any questions. We're going to start putting our flower together at this point, even though we only have the one piece. I prefer dipping my pieces in to make these flowers, so I just have a little piece of parchment paper there, and I put a small little puddle of my Elmer's glue. Using my tweezers, I'm just going to just dip, dip, dip all the way around. And then, even though that's not a lot of glue, we're still going to tap some off on the paper. Just tap, tap, tap. And I'm just aiming right for the center here because this is not a very big scrap of paper. I want to make sure I have enough room for the rest of my flower. Making sure that the tail of my swirl is where I want it, and just pressing down gently for a few minutes. And next we're going to be making the petals for the rest of the flower. It's super simple. It's going to be one shape. I have a 6-inch strip of the same bright pink paper, and I'm rolling it end to end. I'm using my needle tool here, but if you do prefer a slotted tool for this part, you can. Let that open up naturally a bit. Once it looks like it's not moving any longer, I am going to just apply a little bit of glue to the tail, get that secure, and sometimes you may have seen this before, I use my needle tool just to kind of push that end down a little bit just to make sure that that glue is really sticking. And then you're going to pinch top to bottom. Try to keep your coil, the eye of your coil in the center if you can, but it's okay if it moves a little bit. You're going to pinch gently, but then also wrap it around. You can use your finger or the handle of a tool, and it's going to make that half moon shape. You need 3 the same size. Like I said, mine first ones were about 6-inch strips, and then I have some bigger ones, 5 bigger ones that were made in the same way, but with 9-inch strips. Starting with the 3 6-inch strip pieces, you're going to dip a little bit of glue and kind of place them in sort of a loose triangle shape, but you want to make sure the important part of this project is that you leave space between each layer of your petals. You're going to do the same thing with your larger petals, the 5 you made that were larger. Try not to put them directly on top of where those 3 petals were. You want to kind of shingle them a little bit so they're not right on top. And you want to make sure you're using odd numbers for this. If you use 4 or 6 petals right away, it's going to look like a square or just a perfectly round flower. You're looking for it to be kind of a little bumpy on the outside, just to make it look a little bit more natural. Now what we're going to do next is cut away any excess of this scrapbook paper because we're pretty much done our flowers. I like to use a pencil just to make a loose guideline around my outside petals, and notice I go out when they bump out and then in a little bit between them just to give more flower shape. That is a little bit more paper than I want on the end, so then I'm going to cut on the inside of this line. One, to make sure I don't get any pencil marks that I need to worry about later, but also just because I do want it to be a little bit smaller but still follow that loose guideline. And that's going to be pretty much it to the flower part of this project. This was really, really fast. This is a great way to cover a lot of space with just a little bit of quilling, but also it's just a completely different look. There you go. Super simple. And it kind of gives the illusion of roses or some other really layered sort of flower. Next, we're going to do our leaves. So I have that holiday green strip. I'm going to be making a double thick strip for this because I want it to be nice and sturdy for the outline of my leaf. So I fold it in half, open it back up, and add a thin, very thin but solid, as much as I can, line all the way from the center line where I folded it to one end. If I miss any spots, I'm going to go back and just add a little bit of glue. If you do miss spots, you're going to end up with little air pockets in your double thick strip, and that might not give you the look you're wanting, because sometimes when you start shaping these, you're going to see those air pockets kind of pop, and that can be a little frustrating. So I have my glue all the way down from end to end, and then flip it back around so I can just fold it up and zip it on through. Push all the air out, make sure the glue is hitting every spot and that it all stays nice and together. And these strips are the longer versions. These are from Craft Harbor, so they're about 24 inches long. I'm actually going to be using 2 of them because I'm going to be using them in 2 different ways. Once they are dry, you can take one of your strips and feed it through your paper crimper. I'm using one of the larger toothed parts of my crimper here. It's very hard to do this on film, I've realized, because I'm kind of doing it backwards. And I want it to look super wavy, just like that. I'm going to keep the other one straight. This is going to be the outside of my leaf, and the straight version of that double thick strip is going to be the inside, kind of the ribs, the veins of the leaf. Now everything's dry, got my crimped piece. I'm gently kind of just folding this over to make a real basic leaf shape, kind of a teardrop leaf. Add a little bit of glue where I want that to meet. Try to make sure everything is straight. You can point the other end if you want that side to be pointed, or you can leave it kind of bowed. It's up to you. Trim away any excess. Sometimes I find that my glued end is a little bit longer than I want it to be, so I just snip a tiny bit of that off too. And that, ooh, hello. That is kind of the shape we're looking for. You can make yours bigger, you can make them kind of fatter, you can kind of curve them to the side, whatever you want. And we're going to apply this to our scrapbook paper in the same way that we did the flower petals, by just dipping them in a little bit of glue. If you don't have parchment paper for this, you can use a little piece of plastic wrap or wax paper or a little paper plate. You can directly glue if you want to by applying the glue itself right to the outside edge of your quilling, but I find it's just easier this way. You get a lot less glue, which is what you're looking for, so it doesn't kind of seep out the ends. Right, we're going to get that set, and then we'll be able to move on to making the inside lines, the little veins of our leaf, just to make it look a little bit more realistic. I like to curve a little bit that center line, kind of eyeballing it here, and let's see how that fits. It's probably going to be a little long, but that's okay. That's why there's scissors. Yeah, a little bit too long. So you could tear it, or you could have cut it there to get it to size. There we go. Oof. And that seems to fit a lot better. Got that knife curve in it just to make it look kind of natural, like it's kind of moving. Maybe there's a breeze. Your leaves are kind of fluttering. Get that set up. And after that dries, all we have left is just to do a few more straight pieces on our leaf just to finish the look. So I've started filling it in already. These are just using that piece of the green paper that we didn't crimp. I curve them in my fingers very slightly, just tiny little pieces, and get them from the center curved to meet the edge. We're using a few pieces on one side and then a few pieces on the other side. So let's flip it around and do the second side. It's a kind of similar process to when I put in the center vein. I sort of eyeball, curve it over my finger a little bit, make sure it's going to fit kind of where I want it to. This doesn't have to be a perfect process. This is just leaves. This is just nature. Nothing's perfect. Add a little bit of glue and place it where I want it to be. And then we can move on to the next layer. Zoom in a little bit here so you can get a better idea of exactly how this is going. Whoops. Just dipped these in the glue again, and you do have a little bit of time where you can move them if you need to. And I try to get both sides lined up sort of as evenly as I can. That one's going to be a little bit big. Give it a trim off camera here. And yep, that will fit just fine. Dab, dab, dab. And get that placed in. That's going to be our leaf. And obviously this is too much paper as well. And loose outline with my pencil. This is obviously optional. If you feel comfortable just going in and cutting, go for it. I just like to make sure I know what I'm doing and have a little bit of a plan, or I know I would cut too close and then, you know, have done all the quilling for nothing. So this is just the way I decided to go about it. Same things before. I went a little bit big with my pencil, and then I'm just cutting inside the line just to leave a little bit of room on the outside. That's the look I was going for. If you want to be right up against your quilling, you can use a craft knife. something like that, and then you'll be able to get much closer and not have that outside edge showing. That's what I was specifically looking for. When you see them all together here, I did a couple different colors. This big yellow one has even more layers to it, just bigger pieces. I have sort of a purple as well, and when you look at them all together, they sort of look like an applique that you'd see made out of fabric. That's what I was going for. I know this is not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay. I just like to do something different now and then and just show you different ways that you can use quilling paper. It doesn't always have to look exactly the same. It doesn't always have to be, you know, super natural looking. It can look a little bit whimsical, and that's awesome. It's just crafts. It doesn't have to be perfect every time. If you do have any questions, as always, you're going to want to leave them in the comments and I'll answer them as soon as I can. I'll leave links to everything you need in the description box for the video. Don't forget to check out my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can leave me a little bit extra support if you choose to. As always, like and subscribe so you can be around for my next video, and I'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.